Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some and peace out to the rest of you. It is the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media. Sign a black in and shine it again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. And with that being said, this dichotomy to which I'm referring in the title is not a mutually exclusive dichotomy. This dichotomy to which I'm referring in the title is actually necessary both halves. It's necessary on both sides. Now, where an individual begins depends on what they have the most control to affect for the better. And for most of us, it's the internal, for most. And for a few of us who have political power, some other kind of power, it's the external. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to do both. And that is, are we going to fix ourselves internally and become a better people as far as character goes? Or are we going to try to fix the environment externally so that people can be better internally? Whichever one you can affect the most is what you can start with, but we're going to have to do both. There is no one or just the other. If you want to come and talk about the role that white supremacy has played in getting black folks to where we are, and you bring the receipts, you are absolutely right. Shout out to New Jersey Weapons of New Jersey Self-Defense. Shout out to him. He had the receipts. He's right. This is not a joke. They're going to interfere from the outside as soon as that's what is necessary to stop us from getting up. But if it's not necessary and we're holding ourselves down, they're not going to show their hand. If it is not necessary for them to do it, then it is because we are internally lacking. And that is true. We're holding ourselves down as well. The minute we stop, they're going to step in and do it again. But if we start holding ourselves back again on their behalf, guess what happens? They're going to turn around and sit back and say, see, they're holding themselves back. That's what it is. You see, it's like when you're a kid and there's this one other kid, he got to bully everybody. He'll walk up to you and act like he's about to hit you and you flinch. Man, I ain't gonna hit you. You just a little punk. But the minute you don't flinch, he follows through and he hits you. See, you saw me coming. You should have ducked. It doesn't matter what you do. He's going to always blame you, even though you were minding your business, until he walked his little bitch ass up and started effing with you. That's what you're dealing with. That's these folks. When you don't hold yourself back, they trip you up. And even then, they say, no, it was him that did it. No, you put your foot on that slippery rock there. It's always everybody's fault but his. But then he's the one that's doing it because you're not holding yourself down anymore. When you learn to hold yourselves down, he sits back and says, see, they're doing it to himself. He's doing it to himself. What is the difference? When he says to you, no, see, you did that to yourself. When he says that to you, he did it. Now, when he turns to other people and says, see, they're doing this to themselves, that's when you're doing it to yourself. This is what we're facing. This is what we're dealing with. You're dealing with an outside enemy that trains you to work against yourself, but when that training fails, he steps in, does it himself. You're arguing, many of you will argue over which one is more important to fix. Well, which one do you have control over? That's what. You have to be the person that does not fall for these things. That is where the internal responsibility lies. By the same token, some of you have power over some sort of external environment, at least your home. And if you're the one with the power in your home, you set the environment in your home to allow people to be a better person. But if you're not trying to affect the environment outside your home, your kids are going to pick up the negative influences and bring them into the home. So you do the best you can on all fronts. Even if you prioritize that over which you have the most control, you still do the best that you can over all fronts. That's how this works. This must be done. This is a necessity. It's not one necessity or two necessities. It's not even a question of which one. It's a necessity. The best you can do is what you have to do. Because in all honesty, we're sitting up here arguing over nothing. Look, There's another thing that we've done wrong. You got the ones in the community, they're real liberal, and it's always about everything outside, and it's never about themselves. But they're actually smaller in number than those of us that are always quick to talk about what we're doing and never about the outside interferences and influences. They're smaller in number, where I lived at least. There's no stats to prove it nationwide, so I'm not speaking to that. What I can say, though, is that the black conservatives that like to say, if you just pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, well, see, there was a mistake in there because you said just. What do you mean just? First, you got to look for and locate them. You're right when you say that there are many bootstraps out there available. That's true, but we don't know what all of these are. There are many. I know that the numbers are higher, but I don't know where they all are. I myself don't know about all the bootstraps. So it's good to say, okay, here are the bootstraps that we didn't know about, so we can get in on them. That is very true. That's where you come in and you were correct. But when you start saying, if you just pull yourself up, no. It's not just pull yourself up. You're not going to reach the promised land that way. You do have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but you also have to locate an alternative source of bootstraps, because when a bunch of us grab onto a particular bootstrap, it's not available anymore. And they're going to make it such. Not only, if we all go into coding, not only does the cost of coding go down, and therefore the rewards for it financially for those coders goes down. That's not the only thing. I mean, that's competition. The other issue too is that if a bunch of us go into coding, they're going to come up with something else and keep us out of that as long as they can. So the system is still the problem. And it's not always legally written down to be. A lot of times the system that is the problem is existent in the subconscious minds of white and black folks alike. There is still that problem. Don't try to negate that. And don't use an individual personal success story to negate a systematic problem. What you can do is you can say, this is what I learned, and it may be able to help, although there is a systematic problem. And I hope this helps you. Here you go. At that point, you put the ball back in the court of the so-called super liberal pro-black. That's the real way you do it. And to use super liberal, I don't even want to call you pro-blacks. A lot of you are pro-whack. You all have a problem where you don't like to read and learn stuff. Actually, that's something everybody's got. You want to change everything external, and I don't blame you for the external changes you want to make. No one does. But you don't have the internal fortitude to read a damn book and learn how to spell and write in your first language. And you want to convince everybody that you're so woke and they need to be woke like you. If you're woke, do what Malcolm did. First thing Malcolm did when he got woke was he learned to read and to write correctly. Then he became a master public speaker. And we listen to his speeches until this day. When I go take a shower, I'm going to play some Malcolm X in the bathroom. Some people, they like to bump DMX in the shower. You know what? I'm bumping Malcolm X because he was that good. But he did exactly what a lot of you modern day lazy ass, not even pro-blacks, but pro-whacks won't do. Learn to damn read. Well, Malcolm ain't have no education. No, that's not true. Malcolm was self-educated. That's the difference. He didn't have a degree. That man had an education. Don't tell me he didn't have an education. He could find China on the map. He taught himself this stuff. He had the time. He taught it to himself. If you don't have the time, you don't have it. Use what little time you got to teach yourself what you can. If you can't go to a school to teach it to you. And even if you go to a school, you cannot agree with everything they teach you. That ain't even your job, to be honest with you. But what you got to do, what you have to do, is to learn the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. In your first language, you need to learn the basics. If English is your second language and you make mistakes, anybody would not blame you if they know it's your second language. But God forbid it's your first language and you cannot spell. Why I gotta write like white folks? It depends. The answer to that really depends. The question is, can you spell? Can you read and write in English? Even if you want to read and write in AAVE, do you know how to do it? Because frankly, if you don't know how to read and write in any kind of English, you won't even know how to read and write in African American vernacular English. If you can't spell the difference between the possessive your and the contraction your, then nigga, shut up. I'm dead serious. Shut your mouth, because you're making a necessary idea, which is being pro-black and against the oppression of black people. You're making it look bad to folks who have a modicum of education and knowledge. And the fact that street credibility is necessary for you to be able to preach anything pro-black to the masses means that you're trying to save people who don't need to be saved because they don't want to. You see, it's just like what I've said before about the women that demand an ex-player. He has to be an ex-player before she'll want to be with him. I said this before. When a woman demands an ex-player, he has to be an ex-player. She has a demand, a standard that requires other women to get their feelings hurt. So why shouldn't she be one of those women then? I've asked multiple women, 12 of them at a job, if you have a choice between 3 men, and they're pretty much identical, from the same parents, same family business they work for. They're close to each other in age. They look similar because, similar background. The difference is that one is a virgin, the other one is a womanizer, and the other one is an ex-womanizer. Which one do you pick? 11 out of the 12 said they wanted the ex-womanizer. One of them said she wanted the virgin, then declined to meet a virgin when I told her I could introduce her to some. All the other 11, remaining 11, said they wanted the ex-womanizer. Well, he's not doing it now, but he's got the experience. Okay. Then I said to them, your standard demands that some women get their feelings hurt. Why should you not be one of those women? Well, that's not fair. I'll never forget one of them from the Caribbean told me, but that's not fair. I asked her, how is it not fair if this is your standard? But that's not fair. That was all she could say. She could no longer give me a logical answer. So you can't stand a man that doesn't have experience already. But you don't want to be a practice dummy. That's not the way it works. That right there explained to me why so many Western women were unhappy. This was in 2000 or 2001. It was in 2001. I remember now. 2001. When this happened, that opened my eyes up even more. I mean, I kind of suspected that. But there was something else going on too. And what does that have to do with us? Well, see, if you pro-black and you're talking to people that are only willing to listen to you because you used to be a thug, nigga, knucklehead, negative stereotype idness on them streets, and now they'll listen to what you say, then they don't need to be saved. Because if their standards demand that you have victims from your past that were black, then why the hell shouldn't they be one of those victims? Man, I used to be on, look, man, let me talk some sense into you, bro. I used to be on these streets, man. I was robbing, man, sticking people up. Okay, bet. You know what? I'm going to listen to what you say because you used to be in it. How many people you stuck up? Bro, like 200, man. Okay, then he's willing to listen. You should be sticking him up. You should be robbing him. It's a simple question. Now listen, after I'm done, young blood, would you be willing to also listen to my mans who never had to live that life? No? Okay, stick him up. What do you mean, nigga? You see this gun? If you don't pull everything out your pockets right now and empty them, I'm gonna blow your goddamn brains out. Because I'm trying to get you out this lifestyle and you want to stay in it and hold the rest of our people back. Nigga, empty your pockets before I squeeze this trigger. 3, 2, 0. Boom. That's what you should be doing. Because that's what this nigga standards demand. So if you're going to be one of them, prison preacher pro-blacks, if you had to go through that and now you're doing it, then what you need to be doing is telling the people, I shouldn't have to have gone through this, first of all, to be able to tell you what I'm telling you now. That's what the first thing you need to tell them. That's the first thing. Second thing you need to tell them is that if they're going to listen to you, then they need to listen also to someone who never had to go through this. And if they're willing to do it, then there's hope for them. That's what's going on right now. And you don't want to be literate. You still have this carryover and you need to get rid of it. The carryover is this idea that learning and being able to spell and read correctly is for white folks and not for real niggas. You still got that mindset even on the subconscious level. Nigga, we can't help you because you can't help anybody. And going back to some of you conservatives that love to talk about individual accountability, but no external excuses apply. A lot of you niggas are also uneducated about what you're talking about. And you don't know how to read let alone how to write correctly when you're trying to explain it to others. You're just trying to spout white conservative talking points. And if you're not willing to accept the reality of external pressures that were designed by somebody that hates you and me, but you want to talk about individual accountability, you're only talking about half of the problem. You really are not fit to help. Why should I give out handouts? You don't have to necessarily give them if you can't afford to. But what are you going to do? You're the type of person that would have blamed the Black Panther Party for having a free breakfast program. Well, those are handouts, and that's not the American way. Nigga, fuck the American way. Fuck the white way. At what point are you going to stand up and say that? If you've made your money, assuming you've made it, if you've made your money, at what point are you going to say, yeah, the system is a problem, and now I'm going to use this to fund everything the system is against? If you really, really knew what they say about you behind your back, and if you really knew what they would have wanted to do to you if you had been discovered by certain people, you would be trying to send money to Al-Qaeda to take them over because they're that bad. And I'm not even a fan of Al-Qaeda. I don't believe they actually exist, to be honest. But you may believe they exist if you knew how bad your master is or your master's grandkids are. Don't even say they're not my masters. I was never a slave. That's the whole point. If you knew who it was that taught you to say this and what they're saying when you're not around, you would be trying to find Al-Qaeda, even if they don't exist, to fund them. That's what would really happen because they're that bad. And their grandkids, even though they might be cool when they're kids, they grow up to usually be about as bad. And I know because now they're starting to jump into the Muslim community. Oh yeah, you see the older white converts, man, they about it. They may believe in accountability because they're Muslim, but they also believe that there's a systemic problem and they'll fight against it. But now you got these younger ones that are coming in, and I'm not one that always blames young people because you've heard me get on old people too. But you got these younger cats now that they're coming in and they want, I don't talk about identity politics. Man, you Muslim in white America, your people are calling you a sand nigga now, but you don't want to talk about identity politics. They're only there to weaken the ranks of the Muslims. That's their only purpose. They serve there's nothing else that they're accomplishing. And I don't have to respect them because the minute they want to try to legitimize the identity of the oppressor as an oppressor, they're not Muslim anymore. And I call them disbelievers. Really simple. If you are white and you become Muslim, you are required to be a traitor to the white community. End of story. Because they are the oppressors right now, whether you black conservatives want to admit it or not. If you think I'm lying, go and ask an older white Muslim convert about that. I think I've gone on long enough. The main thing you have to understand is it's not a dichotomy. It's not either or. We got to fix ourselves internally. We got to fix external environments. And if they're not going to allow us to fix these external environments without a war, then we need to relocate to other external environments. America's not spoiling you, believe it or not. Certain things in certain ways they do, and in other ways they don't. And yeah, it's true. If you migrate to certain countries, you're going to be begged all the time. You can even go to developed South Africa, and that's going to happen. You go to the beach in Durban, and there's always somebody begging you. Always. But you know what? You talking about it's so great in America, nigga, in downtown Atlanta, it's the same thing. And the funny thing is, in Durban, South Africa, you can see a white guy come up and beg you. In downtown Atlanta, it's always a brother. At least it was when I lived there. Always a brother out there begging. Always. If you have something to start with, America's great, but if you have something to start with, so too are many parts of the tropical world, in all honesty. And if any of you have questions about how to repatriate and avoid losing your money, I don't have a fortune, but I understand how to not lose what you do have. I can help you with that. I can tell you where to not go. One of them is Morocco. If you're not fluent in the Moroccan dialect, don't go there trying to start a business. Just don't do it. That may change. It may have changed since I last learned the information that I learned, that I'm telling you now. But if it has not changed within the last 4 years, then don't go to Morocco. Because everybody's got their hand out. And when you show up, every price goes up. If they don't have the price on a written menu in front of you or on a website, you're going to pay more than the local. And that's not worth it. That's real. Now, I could also tell you that there are other places to go where if the laws may be a little bit strict, but they do adhere to those and they don't throw a bunch of unseen things at you either. I could tell you that. In Malaysia, you start a business, you got to have a local partner with you, a citizen 50-50, or you're going to pay more to start the business. But they learned that from the Chinese. So the other thing too is that a lot of the people that it's easy to find good people in that country. So, have at it. You'll find them. But you can't sit up here and start entertaining any dichotomies anymore. We can't do that. Individual responsibility is one half, and the other side of the coin is the external environment. It always has been. Always. So stop with the either or. The only question really is, which one can you control the most? And that's where you start. That's all. And I hope that what I've said benefits. Thanks for listening. The blackest of the black on social media, sign a black out. Assalamu alaikum. And black male power just because they don't like it.